So, welcome to today's episode of the Biometrics Leadership Lab podcast. And today I've got special guest Kathy Bradrick in to have a conversation today. Kathy and I go way back, which you will likely hear us reminisce in this call. And she's been a clinical research executive and leader for more than 25 years at both large and small CROs, as well as pharmaceutical and government research companies. Kathy started her career as a pharmaceutical sales rep in 1989 and entered the CRO industry in 1997. And in fact, that's when we first met. Kathy has served in a variety of leadership roles throughout her career, including president of Trio Clinical Research, co-founder and managing partner of Inno Clinical Outcomes, executive director of Source at Chiltern International, executive director of business operations at Triangle Biostatistics, which is now part of Catalyst, as well as vice president of growth strategy and senior vice president of resourcing operations at Catalyst. Kathy holds a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's degree in management. She enjoys traveling, live music, and spending time with family and friends, including the newest family member, Banks, the beloved Bernese Mountain Dog. And maybe we will get a visit from him today to keep my cat company.
Anything's possible.
So this is I wanted to talk to Kathy because I think she brings a really great overview of what it's like to move through the world of clinical research, taking on information and how you learn about things you don't know, how you apply that, and how you grow yourself and how you pay attention to the lessons that you're learning along the way. Because I think Kathy's got some great lessons she's learned that she's going to bring us. So first of all, welcome, Kathy. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right. So I'm going to go way back and say, how did you start in the clinical research industry?
So after finishing up grad school, I was looking for a job as a business analyst in the pharmaceutical industry, and I answered a blind ad in a newspaper back when you actually had to put ads in newspapers and send your resume on resume paper, right? So I answered a blind ad for a newspaper posting and landed at my first CRO with you when we first met at Insight Clinical Trials way back when. So yeah, it's been quite the ride since then, I have to say.
Yeah, and I think that it's really interesting. People, it seems like yesterday, but it's almost 30 years ago. And we did find jobs by reading the newspaper and writing cover letters and mailing them in and then waiting for some sort of response.
We absolutely did. Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of fun back then too, right? So like, it's not lost on me that Insight was really trying to be tech forward in this industry, right? So you think back to what we were trying to do, right? We were trying to make data management or data entry faster, right? By having optical character recognition. I remember sending fax machines to every site so they could fax in their source documents. But we also tried to do remote monitoring too, right? If you remember, we had source, right? And we had the database. So we were trying to do some remote monitoring too. So it wasn't lost on me that, you know, along the way in this industry, we're always trying to make technology better, make it clinical trials, you know, more effective, more efficient, etc.
Yeah. And so this was back in 96 and 97. And I was at Insight as well when Kathy joined. And she's right. We were doing things that now are hopefully second nature. But we were trying to streamline data entry, and we were trying to bring a context of remote monitoring in, and we were trying to ease the site burden of having to fill out paper and manage it. And we thought, hey, our fax-based system of data collection is going to be the winning strategy. We thought we would have monitors review source and enter into the database. And it had a lot of really positives to it. I think one of the a story for another day is what happened to Insight and what went wrong. And one of the things I always talk about is there's never been a clinical trial run that hasn't had a problem. And I think pulling the threads on the problems would be an interesting topic. And in fact, it was one of those problems that I think really,
it was great. I mean, I think it's a great success story, right? And it was eventually sold, right? And it's now part of what is a much larger CRO in the world today. So, but it was definitely a platform company back then. So
yeah, and
very successful.
Fun fact about Insight is it was owned at the time. It was owned by a subsidiary of the Nielsen company. The Bases Group owned Insight, and they were the people in charge of the Nielsen TV ratings. If I don't even know if they do those anymore.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. And acquired by what became United Healthcare, right? So
Yeah, it became
that's a
part of
cool. Yeah.
I3, and back when United Healthcare thought they
Yeah.
were going to enter the CRO business. So if you
Right.
know what we're
Exactly.
talking about, you go back a long way with us.
But it was fun back then. I mean, when I was hired, I was a business analyst, but I really didn't. It was a startup company, right? So I didn't really have anybody to teach me, right? So I worked long, grueling days, and trying to figure things out. So I didn't have anybody to teach me. I was supposed to do proposals and contracts and project tracking, and so trying to do a proposal, for example, how much time does it take to do a task? Right? What are the tasks? I had to ask everybody, what do you do? How long does it take? I had to not only price it, I also had to write about it too, right? So I had to know enough to figure out, all right, how many hours does it take? Write about it in a proposal that this is what we're going to do. That had to lead to a contract that had to cover us. So if there were scope changes and so forth, right? So we had contractual language to cover us. So I had to figure all of that out. And as grueling as it was then, I look back and go, wow, what a learning opportunity, right? I mean, I had to dig in, I had to figure out how much to charge per hour, right? There's overhead, there's the actual labor cost, there's profit, there's, all the things that go into it. So I also had to talk to lots of people in different parts of the organization. I talked to everybody from the CEO down to the data entry people, right? Figure out exactly what we're doing, how to do this. It became a tool for everything, and that it was basically, the face of that particular trial, right? So I had to figure all of that out. So very long days, very frustrating in the trench, but now looking back, wow, what a really good opportunity.
And I think that underscores one of the other messages I'd like to pass through, which is when you don't know, ask the questions, take the opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
learn, ask and learn, ask and learn, ask and learn. And I don't recall anybody ever not wanting to help you do what you were trying to do. And
Right.
people
Yeah.
are more than happy to tell you what they do and what it looks like. So ask and learn. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
taking on
And
all of that information at once.
ask anybody. Don't be afraid to ask at any level, right? So, ask for help, ask for guidance. People want to teach other people. People, want the whole organization to be successful.
I
So
was
it
just
takes a
thinking
lot of
that, yeah.
communication and a lot of teamwork, right? It was definitely a lot of teamwork back then.
We all want everybody to succeed regardless of what level we're sitting at, and so, ask, and
Mm-hmm.
you will see how Kathy's trial by fire there, so to speak, at Insight has really paid off, over the course of your career. So I left Insight to go on to other pastures, and Kathy, you eventually left as well. And so where did you go after
I
Insight?
did. I got recruited by what was a big CRO then, actually the very first CRO to go public. So while not a huge company compared to the CRO sizes today, at the time of our growing industry, a big company. So when I got there, when I took a look at some of the tools that they had, was like, okay, wow, there's actually tools. But because I had to figure it out in my previous role, I actually could look at these tools and help make them better, which that was kind of rewarding to me, right? That I could take what I had learned and I could take something that actually existed and then help make it better. That was really rewarding. Also, the communication skills that I learned in the trenches at my first job helped me to be able to communicate with all levels within a bigger organization. So, for example, the CEO, he had to sign off on every single proposal. So at first it was a little intimidating, and then I got, very comfortable. He was a really good mentor for me. I learned a lot from him. I literally one time I made a huge mistake. Literally made $1 million mistake in a budget, and I didn't know what to do. When I saw it, I was just stunned. How do I fix this? What do I do? And I went immediately to him and I said, "Oh my God, I made this huge mistake." And he looked at me and said, "Wait, you're admitting that you made this big mistake?" I said, "Yeah, I need you to help me fix it." Right? So, and he was just stunned that I would come to him admitting that I had made a mistake. And as a result, down the road, I got promoted because of it. So I think the lesson there is just, don't be afraid to admit your mistakes. and definitely be willing to ask questions of anybody at any level.
And I just want to underscore that. Don't be afraid that there's a problem. That, I like to say
And
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying,
I
I like
was
to
just
say
going to say,
as you're growing, this will all get fixed in editing. As you're growing in your career, you get afraid to admit you made a mistake, or you think you can fix it, or you don't know what to do, so you say nothing. And this is a great
right,
example of, you knew you had a problem. You didn't quite know how to fix it, but you knew you had to say something. And so you say something. And I think if you know with options, you bring options. And if you don't know options, you say, I don't know what to do. I just know I have to do something. Can you help me?
right.
And again,
Yep,
everybody wants to be successful. So I think you'll get that. So recognize your problems and seek help, I think, is the message.
absolutely. Yep.
Um, And by the way, we're not going to name that company that Kathy was working for, but if you think you know it, drop a comment or message me and see if you can name that company that was the first one in industry to go public. So you've moved on really and gotten into very executive and senior and leadership roles throughout your career. And so what has influenced you as a manager and a leader as you have gone through your career?
Gosh, I think what's really influenced me is all the people that I have interacted with. All of my direct supervisors, bosses, good and bad, right? So I saw the good, like that CEO, he was a great mentor for me. And what he taught me was to tell my people, please don't be afraid to admit your mistakes, just like you said, right? He taught me I can't fix it if you don't tell me there's a problem, right? So I think that's become a big part of my management style is, hey, everybody makes mistakes. We're all human. I can't help you unless you let me know and let me help you. I've learned from bad bosses too. I learned about a new person coming into the organization that was going to be my direct supervisor from an offhanded comment in a bathroom. But yet I wasn't included. I didn't know I was getting a new boss. I wasn't included in any sort of interview, not necessarily to be part of the decision, but just to get to know this person because this person could greatly influence my life, right? So, I learned to really try to over communicate that, everything that's going on as much as I can and also why things are going on, right? When you get a directive and you're like, do this, well, why? Like I really try hard to over communicate, right? So, I also learned kind of how to act and behave, I have to say. So one of the first industry conferences I ever went to, my direct supervisor got a little out of hand and kind of made a fool of themselves after drinking a little too much alcohol. And I learned very quickly that you can have fun, but you also got to be professional, right? And then when you're out there representing the company, no matter what, big or small, like you are a representative, and you need to act that way, right? So just things like that have influenced me along the way. When I've seen behaviors that are great, I want to mirror them, and when I've seen behaviors that are bad, I want to make sure I'm not that person, right?
And
So
there's
it's just
some
been
great
lessons learned
messages.
along the way.
Yeah, there's great messages there for new managers and, higher level leaders is one, let your teams know what's going on. Even if they don't get a say or you're not able to give them a say, help them to understand what's going on and why. If you're hiring a new manager, exposure to the team works really well in both directions. The person coming in knows what they're getting into with their team, and the team knows what they're getting with their new manager. And I think having that opportunity to at least feel a part of the process can really be helpful. The other thing you said that was really nice was know what you want to be like and what you don't want to be like.
Exactly.
Because even if you're not quite
Exactly.
sure what your style is, knowing what it's not will help guide you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a product of all your experiences, right? So
Yep. Yeah. And know your limit on alcohol and have less than that when you're at a public conference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or understand you're hitting your limit and disappear into the darkness, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
get out of the limelight. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
because ultimately you're representing yourself and your company. And, if
Hmm.
you're traveling on your company's banner, then you represent them and you want to make sure that you're representing
That's
them in a
it.
professional and appropriate way. So you
Absolutely.
have founded a couple of companies, your most recent one,
I
which we'll
have.
probably talk about later, as well as one before that. So what made you decide to start a
Mhm.
company and how did you kind of get the courage to say, let's do this?
Right. So, I mean, a lot of things. I think the main thing is just my entrepreneurial spirit. I actually grew up in a family business. So my dad owned an independent pharmacy, right? So I grew up there, and I grew up having to learn and do a lot of things, and it was all about what can we do to make the company successful. And that was exciting for me, right? And being able to jump in and do all the things. I mean, I just learned that you just have to do all the things like from day one. So I started pushing a broom in the back room when I was, a young, 11
Mhm.
or 12 years old, right? So, the skills I got from working at a pharmacy, right? So, I mean, I can help fill a prescription, I can balance a cash drawer, I can change your watch battery, and I can fix just about any vending machine, right? So, getting to do a lot of things is fun, and I like doing that, and all in the spirit of making the business successful. So I think that's really what's appealing to me. So I had that spirit, right? So then, I've had partners along the way. So I haven't done it alone, right? And I think that that has helped a lot. Also as I've grown my skill set, right? I'm more confident and more comfortable in, what I'm doing, right? I've been in small organizations, large organizations. So starting a company, after that experience was exciting to me, getting back to that entrepreneurial spirit. A little scary, absolutely, first to admit that, right? You're giving up a known salary and a comfort and jumping out of your comfort, but to try to be more successful, right? Like, how do you jump ahead, right? I feel like that's what helped me, jump ahead, right? Gave me the confidence I needed to do it.
Way back when I was going through some things, I had this saying that, life begins outside of your comfort zone. And if you want to change what you're doing and you want to experience something new, I think sometimes have to be a little uncomfortable in what you're going to do. And it is comfortable to stay in a role, and it's uncomfortable to change, but sometimes that's where the real growth happens. I want to
Absolutely.
touching on the small company versus big company thing. I'm a huge proponent of small companies. I just like them better. Small to mid-size is definitely where I like to be. But you mentioned doing all the things. And as you go up in your career and as you take on more responsibility, the knowledge of knowing what others are doing and how it all fits together and having a full awareness of what's going on are invaluable. And the best places to gain that experience are small and mid-sized companies, because you get the chance to do all the things.
Absolutely. Getting to wear lots of hats. As companies get better, it's just a function of growth, right? Where what was a little piece of something you had to do actually becomes a full time job in a bigger
Mhm.
company. So for better or worse, that's kind of the way that big companies grow, which I think is why I've gravitated back to the smaller companies in my career. Once it gets big, I like to go small again. I get to where, I want to go back to doing multiple more things. I want to get back to doing like everything I need to do to help grow the business.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with those big companies. I think the people who
Mm-mm.
are succeeding at the big companies also, though, have a broad background and know a lot about the industry and all of the roles at the companies. So
Absolutely.
never
And how
overlook.
to manage a huge organization that you mean, I
Yeah,
haven't ever had to do that, right? So I
wouldn't
don't,
want to do that.
yeah. No.
But don't underestimate having the breadth of knowledge to help you succeed as you are going up in your career. I
For
think
sure.
we talk about biometrics here because this is the Biometrics Leadership Lab, but a very fun
Yeah,
part of your career and a nice part of your career was spent at Triangle Biostatistics, which was a small
absolutely.
CRO. And
So
funny
Triangle
enough,
Bio,
I was going to say, funny enough, it was kind of run by somebody that we knew from Insight, and that somebody was actually best man at my wedding. So you will run across people multiple times.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, I got recruited by one of the founders of Triangle Biostats to come and help build the company. And he knew me from 20 years before when I was just a business analyst at Insight. And I said to him, "You don't even know me in my modern role." And he said, "Oh, I know you." He said, "I know your work ethic, I know your drive, I know your motivation, I know you want to succeed, and I need you to help me build this business." And he kind of wouldn't take no for an answer. So I was in a spot in my career where the company had gotten a little bit bigger than I really liked, and the lure of a small company and help building something again was really enticing to me. So I came on board as the head of business operations at Triangle Biostats as really employee, one of the first 3 employees, I think, as we tried to start to build a succession plan. And I did all things business operations. I had to figure out how to do payroll so I could pay myself. I had to figure out benefits. I had to do marketing, business development. So I mean, they had a logo and stuff, but I helped refresh their brand. Business development, they really did business development by picking up the phone when it rang. So I had to put in a really forward thinking business development plan. They had never gone to conferences. Let's go to conferences. Let's be out there. Let's network with people. As we're growing this company into a larger organization, into something bigger and better. I used to joke that, I have to do accounts payable, I have to do accounts receivable, I have to do business development, and I have to make sure there's enough toilet paper in the bathroom, right? So it was back to kind of doing all the things. And that's what I really liked, and growing the platform of a business, which is just something I've really enjoyed in my career. Biometrics focused CRO, as Amanda mentioned. When I started, we just did biostats and FSP work, and I helped put data management in place, just another service that, is part of the biometrics, and again, building all the proposal tools and all of the things, and writing SOPs. When I got there, they had, I think, 4 SOPs. So I had to write some SOPs, like, the SOP on SOPs. And, do
That
some
one
stuff like
always
that.
gets overlooked.
Yeah, right. But it's important, right? Because it sets the foundation. Anyway, I won't go into that because I'm not a QA person. But again, services are services. So biometrics is really special to me because I had this part in my career, and I took it forward into CAP. The same investment group that acquired Catalyst, which was a clinically focused small CRO shop, also acquired Triangle Biostats. And we had been working together for years on projects. So, clinical and biometrics, we all got to talk to each other, right? So we're all, part of one service offering. So when the same investment group bought both companies, it kind of felt like they consummated our marriage in a way, right? So we were the platform companies that started what is now Catalyst. So, I'm really proud of what we built there. It was fun. It was good.
Yeah, it's always fun to get in early to a company and then watch it grow and see what happens to it. I think Triangle Biostat, I did never work with them, but I think, as I said, it was founded by somebody who was best man at my wedding, who I knew all the way back from my Glaxo days. So I had followed around to multiple companies in Glaxo. But I know that you also had a couple of other employees that I knew from other roles that I have. And you're always bound to cross paths with at least somebody at least twice in your career. And
Mm-hmm.
so, whether you're learning having a good experience or a bad experience, it's always a good opportunity to figure out what's going well for you, and what do you take from a relationship to make it valuable to both parties, even if it's a little
Right.
bit of a struggle. And I think you had such a great experience at Triangle, and then went all the way back to 20 years before, when you would cross paths
Absolutely.
with this person,
Yeah. Yep.
and showed how you like to work, and what you can accomplish when you put your mind to it. And even though you went into a completely different role, well, not completely, but a
Absolutely.
different
Completely
role
different.
with
Yeah.
wider responsibilities, they hired you and came after you based on your reputation and their knowledge of how you work. So it's
Yep.
important
Yep.
to always be
Absolutely.
thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah, and a big part of what I do too in this industry is networking. And I think, again, going back to, my dad owned the community pharmacy, so he knew everybody in town, right? I think that networking spirit came along with the entrepreneurial spirit. So network, 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 right? Meeting people, meeting different people. You never know, like, that may not sidetrack, but turn your career 180 degrees. You may meet somebody and go, wow, I really like what they're doing. Let's see and then you work with them and they get to know you and you get to do something different, right? Because different people that may take you different directions. I love networking. I love, and maybe that's why I've also gotten a lot into resourcing types of businesses. But it's all about networking and growing your career.
And even if you're not a natural born networker, hello, it's still it still adds value. And, I hear networking, I want to go crawl under my bed with a book, but it's valuable. And I think the value of your network isn't how big it is, it's how strong it is, and how much attention and purposeful consideration you give it, right? If I have to go anywhere, like a conference or a networking event or wherever I'm going, I have a benchmark for what's successful for me at this event. And it's, I need to meet X number of new people, and then I'm
Hmm.
good. And,
Well,
make a game of
you
it.
may think
And
you're not networking. Yeah, you may think you're not networking, but I mean, when people see when you're working with people and you're showing them your skill set, you are networking. You are absolutely networking.
you're kind of networking with your coworkers every day, whether or not you
Hmm.
want to put that frame on it. Okay, so you've kind of learned a lot over the course of your career. What have you taken out of everything that you've done to define what's the most important to you?
We're in a unique industry, right? So people ask me a lot, I say I want to be patient first, right? People say, how are you patient first, right? Well, I think we're patient first in this industry. We're in business because it's a business, right? And we have to make a profit. But I think it's important for us to be good stewards of our clients' money and try and be as efficient as we can be in this industry. And I think we've seen it in the way the technology has changed in trying to make clinical trials, more efficient, more streamlined, less expensive. I think that's important. To me, that's all part of being patient first, getting those products to market that the patients need as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I think that's very important. Um, I want to be nimble. I want to be able to listen to my clients, and I want to be able to provide what my clients need, but nothing more. Right? The nimbleness of a small company. Again, I've drawn to small companies because I can pivot if I need to, right? If something's not working, I can, change and do something else, right? And listen to my client, really try to be, as aware as possible of their assets and what they're trying to do.
So, and that's a little bit about what you guys are doing at Spark.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we started Spark. We're in a different part in our careers now, right? Again, I have really good partners. Not nearly as scary the second time around as the
Yeah.
first time around. Um, yeah, but we got into this because clients were coming to us saying, it's so convoluted and there's just so much piled on that I don't need. Can you just help me find, a good CRA team? Sure. Or can you find me the right consulting statistician or, and nothing else. And so that's kind of become our motto is we want to listen to our clients and we want to give them exactly what they need and nothing more. So
Yeah, no, and it's
we're
really
a year.
interesting. When we first reconnected and we were talking, I'm like, what are you guys really doing? Because it's not it you know it you look at your website, you're not a CRO, you're not like this or that, the other thing, and it's like, what are you doing? And you're like, we're solving the problems that our clients have. And I think that for me has always been the most personally satisfying, is solving the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And making decisions for the sake of the right decision and not for the stakeholder or the stockholder or, the investment group. So yeah, again, we're a business, right? We're in money. We're in business to make money, but we're also in an industry that's, hopefully helps people, which I really like that about our industry. I feel like our industry makes a difference, which is very important to me as well.
I know. I've always said I love coming to work every day and thinking that what I'm doing is going to help somebody. One of my favorite stories is, just personally, I back when I was at PPD, working with that guy, but we stayed up all night working on an integrated safety for submission. And
Hmm.
this is back in the days when you could put a package on a plane by itself, and we took it to the airport and we packed it up, the box of all the printouts, and sent it off to Boston. But one of my children actually ended up taking that drug that was approved. And so,
Really?
yes. And so it's fascinating to me, like, what we do in theory, but I think everybody has a story of what they do in
Hmm.
practical realm that has impacted their families. And so I think that, you get to come up you wake up every day and you're going to go do something that's going to help patients, and it's just intrinsically rewarding to me. So what do you think, or what would be your best advice that you would give to upcoming leaders, I would say?
Be honest, have use your communication skills, first of all, I think. Learn to communicate. For some people that's harder than for others, right? If you're not one that's big on communication skill, I would say work on that. I would say ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think mistakes are how you learn. If I hadn't made that $1 million mistake way back when, I would not have learned to communicate and to solve problems like I do now. It's just everything that you're doing now and in the trenches makes you a better future you. It really resonates with me, going back to all the things I had to do in some of those trenches, even going back to, working in the family business, to the first startup CRO, all those things, those subtle skills you learn, they help you along the way. So recognize that, right? And then just be curious. Always be curious. Always ask good questions. There's no question that's stupid, right? Ask them. If you don't know, you don't know, right? And don't be afraid to ask anybody who might know the answer. And if those people don't know the answer, again, they want to help you. They'll find somebody to help you, or they'll try to help you network. So doing all the things, be honest, be true to yourself, and do the things you like to do. Follow what you like to do too, I would say.